I don't know Birdman Mel. I know Mel Toner is the founder of a distribution company that distributes specialty products all over the country and beyond, including bird products and, more interesting to me, wine accessories. I also know Mel as a fellow angel investor. We've co-invested in several startup companies. He serves on the board of one of our companies that has developed a way to supercharge natural enzymes to increase the yield and quality of food products. The products of this company's invention is going to be used all over the world to have more and better food to feed our growing population. Today, I'm excited because I get to learn that the third dimension of Mel Toner is Birdman Mel. So Mel, it's all yours. Take over.
Okay, Gene, thank you so much for those very kind words. Can you guys see me and hear me all right? Okay, very good. It is a pleasure to be here. We are a Kiwanian family. My son just finished a round as president of our local Kiwanis. We're just down the road here in Mexico, Missouri, so it's an honor to be with you. He tells me, and I've learned a lot about your organization through his participation. I did want to challenge you. I just saw this bird. As you're sitting there, say to yourself, what is that thing? Where did it come from? Well, this guy came all the way from Brazil, and his name is, of course, a purple martin. And martins are one of my favorite birds. If you ever have a chance to come on up to Mexico, Missouri. We have a big colony in front of our business here called Gold Crest Distributing. And if I know you're coming, I'll go out there and we'll talk purple martins, and we'll have a lot of fun. But besides him, I had Phoebe show up, that little bird that goes, Phoebe, Phoebe. And he always goes underneath my deck and builds a little nest right under this electrical box. And then I heard out here in the parking lot a killdeer making their little sound as they ran across. So it is certainly time to get ready for spring birds. And I'm going to do my best to talk about some of the birds I hope that you want to attract. So this guy's a purple martin. There's another bird that looks kind of like him. I love hearing this sound right now. This guy, of course, is a bluebird. And the eastern bluebird, if you don't realize it, has already started their nesting. The male's taking the female around saying, hey, how about you and me right here? And the number one thing to do is to have a proper nest box. And I ran out of space up here, but basically you need 1.5 inch opening. You need a 4x4 floor, and what the heck, just go in Songbird Station and look at one. If you want to build one, I don't care if you measure ours. But we also have, I wanted to remind you, we have tips brochures, like tips to how to attract bluebirds, whatever. Forgive the commercial, but a lot of them are non-commercial tips about how to place a bluebird house. And you want to have an open area to do that. And in this part of the world, you want to face it east-southeast. But a personal plea is make sure you use one of our baffles. This is a baffle that goes around the pole. You can use stovepipes or whatever, but if you don't, you'll be like what happened to us years ago. I was blessed to work with Jim Caneza over at the University Golf Course, and we did great, put up a lot of houses, but then one morning it was very, very sad. A raccoon had followed human footprints from house to house and enjoyed our food trail. So remember, if you put up a bluebird house, if at all possible, put it on a pole, put a baffle on it, and protect it. I've got one set up that way right inside the door there at Songbird Station, and I'll get my commercial out of the way. We're down at Chapel Hill and Forum between Callaway Bank and Clover, so come see us. I'm going to be there after the program. I'm heading over that way. But the bluebirds, the other thing you can do to help them this time of year is the mom is flying around getting all kinds of bugs, trying to feed all them babies, feeding them mealworms. And I didn't bring any live mealworms on here, but there's live mealworms we got in the fridge, and then there's dried mealworms. And they will really eat these guys, but the problem is so does a lot of other birds. So you can make yourself, or we make up here, we make a lot of products in Central Missouri. Thank you guys you help us have almost 100 jobs in this part of the world. But these recycled plastics, they can go in and eat. What I do if you ever get a feeder is I start mine like that so they can go in at first, and then I put that lid down. Why am I using this feeder instead of just a cup? And a lot of times I tell people, start with a pie pan or whatever, is everybody else going to say, oh my God, they're feeding, gourmet over at Gene Gerke's house, and you want to get over there, you want to eat all that stuff. So this lets just the bluebirds and the wrens are mainly the ones that go in there and eat it. So just a way to get some bluebirds, and there's all kinds of other tips there in the tips brochure, both at the store or for you tech savvy. I can tell you guys love tech about as much as I do, but I do have a lot of videos like how to attract bluebirds up at birdmanmel.com, okay? So bluebirds is the first thing I tell everybody to get ready for in the spring. The next thing is probably one of America's favorite birds. I'll jump to ask you a question to yourself. What is America's favorite bird? And I'll come back to that in a second. But probably the second favorite one is this guy right here. This is, a rather big hummingbird, of course. And he doesn't really sing, although you guys know what they make. I call it squeaky. They make that squeaky sound. And these guys will be coming. When do you put up your feeder? Think tax day. Give the government their due and give the hummingbirds their due. If you have your feeders up, then most times in central Missouri, you're going to be okay. Once in a while, they might beat you, but not too often, okay? And what are you going to put in a feeder, and what kind of feeder? Well, I'll tell you about what I like in a feeder, but yes, you can use 1 part sugar, 4 parts water. Yes, we happen to make a hummingbird feeder that's really finely ground bar sugar. Please only use cane sugar. It is proven it is the highest energy source, the most like nectar. Don't use honey. There's some companies put all this foo-foo in there, and all it does is dilute the nectar, okay? So whether you make your own or buy it, pure cane sugar is the secret. The other thing is, and I'm holding up a red pack here because a lot of folks, including my mom, think you got to have red nectar. Well, don't use any with red dye, because think about it. Hummingbirds eat a lot of nectar. If a hummingbird eats the equivalent to like 265 Big Macs a day, okay? And if you got, if you as a human can't eat red M&Ms with dye, think what it would do to them. So you're going to say, well, what you got in there then? Well, we use hibiscus extract and ground carmine. Carmine's a beetle larvae, and it provides vitamins and most of all minerals to the hummingbird. We don't put a lot of it in there because, again, he'll get that other ways. And how do hummingbirds get that rest of that? Well, they eat little bugs. I recommend putting plates of fruit out, or I forgot to bring it in, but we've got something called a humbug. It's just a big old red thing. You put a bunch of bananas in there and you let them go rotten. Now, don't put it by the porch, Gene, or them gnats, those fruit flies will be over in your wine. But if you put it out in the yard, it draws them down, and you will actually see the hummingbirds zip around grabbing those little bugs. So don't forget, don't use insecticides and stuff, because that hurts the hummers. And I get to going here pretty quick, but we're going to give you time for questions. So write them down, give me a holler, here in a second when we get done with the program part. People always say, well, I love my hummingbird feeders, but I got a couple problems, Mel. Ants get in them rascals. Well, there are more and more some feeders that have the ant moat above them. Most of those, even if they got them on there, they're so darn little, by the time the evaporation and a lot of chickadees will come up and drink, we make a little nectar protector thing you would just hang above a hummingbird feeder. This one here is clear. I happen to like the clear the best because I can tell if it's empty or not. But if you don't have a feeder with a lot of red, I use the red one above it to attract it. But red is the secret. So we got a thing going today. Blue for bluebirds. There's actually some data that blue on that bluebird feeder helps attract bluebirds. Just last year or two, there's a thing called North American Bluebird Society, NABA, or association. If you go online, you can do that. Before I forget, Cornell. If you need something that you can't find on birdmanmail.com, go to Cornell University. Their ornithology department is the best. We support them and know all those folks, and it's good stuff. Purple Martins, I forgot to tell you, and I'm going awful fast, I know, and the store can tell you this stuff too, but pmca.org, the Purple Martin Conservation Association. And I hope you can tell here, our goal in life and our mission at the store is help families enjoy nature together. I so much enjoy getting my children, grandchildren out in nature and away from these keyboards that we're using today and enjoying the creation that God created for us. I close most of my programs, you'll see at BirdMan Mel, with the phrase, nature is a stress reliever from God. Take time today to listen to the birds sing. And that's a mission statement several ways for my life. But hopefully you'll draw some birds in with what I'm showing you and you'll have a good time. Do remember, cleanliness is next to godliness in hummingbirds. You got to keep that feeder clean. I forgot to show you what I love about this one, and a dear friend invented it who passed away. It's a big old thing called the Dr. JB's, and the head of the Humming Society called this the world's best ever. Why'd they call it that? Comes apart easy. That's a weird looking bottom, ain't it? Well, what happens when the lid's on and it blows in the wind? It doesn't leak. It also doesn't get that nectar up here to the blossoms, okay? So feeders like this where the nectar comes from the bottom, you can help keep the bees away from it. The other thing you can do if you got a feeder that just isn't working is Avon Skin So Soft is safe. You can put a little bit of that on there. It's okay. If you ever get bees on a feeder or you ever let it get dirty, move it. Because a hummingbird's got a memory. Think about it. They go to Costa Rica, come back, they'll look you in the eye through your window and say, where's that feeder, BirdMan Mel? You had it right here last year. Well, if they can remember that, they sure remember when they went to a dirty feeder, okay? And if that feeder's dirty, it like turns their guidance systems off. They, boom, liable to run in a tree. And you don't want to go back to that restaurant. So if you ever have that happen, it happens to me when I go on a trip sometime. I have some people watch my stuff, but they might forget the one around the corner. And speaking of that, rather than have a whole bunch of feeders in one place, put them around your house. You'll be more likely to draw them in. Same way with wren houses. You know, one wren will fill up every old house out there. So if you want more wrens, put a house either side. Same drill with hummingbird feeders. And you actually see we got smaller ones at the store there where you can, you know, not so expensive to spread them around. And speaking of that, the first Kiwanian that says they saw this and goes in the store, we're going to give you one of those big red hummingbird feeders. And all you guys, make sure you tell my store manager I said, because you were good enough, and ladies, to listen. You get 10% off anything you buy on your first trip back in there, other than my seed, because we got that price pretty darn good every day of the week. And you do want to stay stocked up on that, because like so many things, there's been some shortages. So I do see seed prices going up again in the future. So keep that in mind, okay? But good tips for hummingbirds. Do have a little kit. You can clean every part of it. So enough of the commercial. You can have a lot of fun. There's a little thing a fireman up in Chicago invented called a hummingbird ring. I wouldn't worry about this until August, September. That's when they're the best to use. I give them to my kids at Easter in their basket. And we can sometimes get them to feed in the spring. But by golly, right before they migrate in September, it really, really is a good time. You just sit on the deck, and you can have your wine in one hand or soda pop or whatever, and then you can sit you there, and they will eat out of your hand. You can check the videos. I have my little videos, grandsons, 2 years old, done this. So a lot of fun to do. So besides hummingbirds, we said April 15th, that was tax day. I used to always tell folks May 1st. May Day is ready to get ready for this guy. And what's he? Well, that's the old Baltimore Oriole. And he's another guy that'll be coming back from South America. And orange is the word to get him. In the house I used to live on, we had a fence that had these pointy tops. Best thing I ever did is I sliced oranges in half and put them there. It's like a runway for that guy to land. So when in doubt, put out some oranges. That helps you get them. They're used to eating fruity orange type stuff down where they come from. My favorite feeder to feed them with is this rascal here, and I only use it because it helps me show all the things. It's a great nectar feeder, and the one thing to have is have them feeders up early. Now I have moved it up to more like last couple of years. We had a few show up in mid-Missouri April 20th, and yeah, you got them in Boone County. Actually, they show up all year long along the Mississippi River. Anywhere there's cottonwoods, up toward Clark where the horses are, horsehair and cottonwoods are two things where almost always I'll see Orioles. But most all of us get a chance when they're going through. But they travel at night, and when they land, if you don't have the food there, they're not so likely to stay. I like this feeder because it got a lot of oranges, a lot of places to put jelly. A lot of folks have learned that grape jelly works, and it does work. Don't overdo it, because the corn syrup, some of the jelly's out in the market, and I'm going to write about this in the next Songbird Station News. And make sure you holler at the store if you want an email or a hard copy. But it can actually hurt the Orioles. So I got lucky, I'll be honest. Mom made more blackberry jelly than I could eat. And it worked out real good. I was feeding it to the Orioles, and they loved it. And it worked real good till Mom came, and then we had to stop that. But we put blackberry and grape together, no corn syrup. And oh my gosh, some people say it's like almost addictive as drugs to the Orioles. But the biggest thing I like about it, we worked with Cornell, we worked with different people. It is the best jelly that anybody knows how to make for the Orioles. So keep it in mind, it's a good product that I got to plug. But you can, if you make your own homemade jelly, hey, that's okay too. And you might mix a little blackberry, a little grape. Pure cane sugar, no preservatives, please. That's two of the very big keys. And no corn syrup, okay? So oranges, jelly, and nectar. But the oranges and the jelly will hold them longer than just the nectar. We have some good nectar feeders too, and they're out there. This little guy we started with it was meant to put on a jelly jar, but they keep shrinking them, so we put the jars in with it now. But fun feeder for the Orioles, so keep it in mind. I gotta go back, I forgot. The biggest thing you can do to get hummingbirds is hang the big red bowl around the old oak tree, or hang it on your hummingbird stand. Hang it on wherever you got the hummingbird. Grab that thing out of your Christmas closet and put that big old bow out there, because that's a real key to drawing them down. So keep in mind, what we're going to do, we're going to have blue if possible to bring down some bluebirds on a feeder. We're going to have this, although they'll come to wooden feeders too. Once they find out there's mealworms there, get ready. They're going to eat all you put out. Then you got red to bring down the hummingbirds, and you got orange for the Orioles. So just some fun things there on spring birds. Last one I wanted to hit is these guys here. I don't know if you can see this real good, but this photo's actually, anything you see on our boxes almost always been shot here in mid-Missouri. I shoot a lot of photos, and we have two other ladies here in mid-Missouri that shoot them for us. And these are, what are they, guys? Well, they're the goldfinches, and we've all fed them all winter. I mean, Mine were eating like crazy the entire winter, but they like to hang out together, so that's why I'm holding this thing up. This feeder here is one, and we actually have switched. We made this a metal feeder now, and the old plastic version, nothing wrong with it, but you guys are going to benefit because in mid-Missouri, till we run out of them, we're having a special, just $20 for that big old honking feeder. It's not put together, it's just all the parts that were plastic, but a fun way to feed a whole bunch of feeders. I did want to cover goldfinches, and that I'm blessed to be on a national committee of the muckety mucks and the big seed companies and all that, but we have all kind of decided that there are some challenges with Niger thistle in this country. So if you've had trouble getting birds to eat your thistle, there's a reason. And what happened is so much of it comes from India, and those rascals have been overcooking it. And they're cooking the oil out of it, and there's just nothing in there. It don't taste good. So, you know, you got to kind of fight me to give you Niger thistle, although we do get some from an American processor, which helps in it, but I still think some of it's been, you know, maybe something done to it before we get it. But my favorite mix at the store is finely chopped sunflower kernels and that thistle put together in any of your thistle feeders. So keep that in mind. The other thing to do is don't let your stuff get old. I always, we have a couple feeders in there. I forgot to bring one to Sparrow. You fill it from the top one time, bottom the next. But if you don't, dump it out, mix it together, put it back in. You'll be amazed how many more the birds will eat it. You won't have to waste it there if you treat your thistle that way. You don't have to feed thistle though. This guy here, I was going to use it for little clinging birds. Whoa, watch out there, Mel. This is called a clingers only. Just a little bird here hops on. This is my favorite bird for this old boy. Yep, that's my buddy the chickadee. But you put sunflower hearts, this guy right here, in this or on a tray or anything, I guarantee you finches will eat it as good as they eat the thistle. So I really have gone to feeding almost all sunflower hearts, other than my guys love having a party together, so I put that finch mix, that combination of chips and sunflower in that thing so they can have a party. So good time there. So that's, you know, about the spring birds that are coming. I want to give you a full 10 minutes for questions, but I'm going to just hit you with two other things. I mentioned America's favorite bird. That's this guy. Yep, the cardinals. And even where they don't have, hey, you, be quiet. Okay, he really likes being on the show. Thank you guys for having him. Even where cardinals aren't a baseball team, all over America, this is the favorite bird. If you want cardinals, sunflower seeds, sunflower hearts, and safflower. That's what you need. But then the secret is put it in a big old hopper like this, where this old boy's got room. You don't want one that he's got to set right on a tube, because he won't do that. He has to have room to sit here and eat, okay? And this is right at the bottom of what I would call open. His favorite feeder at my place, and my favorite feeder, period, and particularly a lot of you I think are like me and maybe have a little time to fill feeders, is this guy here, is a hanging tray feeder. I do all mine in metal, so metal bottom, so they're easy to clean, and that is important. Every month, if you can, 1 part bleach, 9 parts water, clean that rascal, because that's one of the secrets to keep from getting diseases in your birds. But this little guy just loves sitting here. I do find all the, you know, we'll be talking about buntings and grosbeaks, several other, and we got one issue in the mail going out right now, but about middle of April, I started, just about got her done. We'll be talking about some of the other migratory birds, and they will come to a tray feeder before they come to anything else. So keep that in mind. Last but not least, this guy here I love. This is my old downy woodpecker. Him and the chickadee are always the first two. And he loves suet, and this is my favorite suet feeder. Now, he doesn't need this old tail prop here because he ain't got such a big tail, but you think about it, that guy goes up a tree like that. Well, if you want to get the red bellies, the red-headeds, the flickers, the those bigger woodpeckers, pileated, you need a long tail prop like this. It really helps. Now, it'll sometimes come to other stuff, but this helps. The other feeder I can't keep full, and you can make them if you want, is it's a cedar log. We got a guy down at Just City, that area, makes these for us. We got suet plugs that go in there. I dare you to put one of these up and keep it full. It is amazing how many woodpeckers, chickadees, nuthatches, titmices come see it. So make your own cedar log if you want. It works good. So kind of a roundup of spring birds, Gene, of my favorite birds, and hopefully some tips there that'll help people attract birds, whether they come to Songbird Station or not. Now, if they use these tips and they don't come see us and buy something somewhere else, of course, all their birds will die. But, you know, I can't help that. Bad joke there, sorry. Mr. Gene, I'm ready for any questions if you are.
Hey, Mel, so I looked at all the recipes for how you clean hummingbird feeders. What's your advice on cleaning solution for hummingbird feeders?
Okay, great question. I normally just use water, just straight water. There is some that say use vinegar, some say use sugar, detergent or whatever. I have my best luck just using water because everything on there is water soluble. So normally there's no need. Now, if you get some mold, it's a little harder to get off. And if that's the case, I'll probably go ahead in that case and use some soap. But then with hummingbirds and many, I do it with all my feeders. It's kind of like when I had to do dishes in the bar as part of, or not a bar, but a restaurant there in a mall years ago at the Biscayne. That'll date me, won't it? You know, the rinse is as important as the wash. So I always thoroughly rinse feeders after I disinfect them also, okay? Good question. Anything else?
So Mel, yeah, that tray feeder you had for the cardinals.
Yeah.
So how do you keep the squirrels off that thing?
Well, there are baffles that you can hang it from, and actually my wife just took a video yesterday. We have a big baffle over a tray just like that on our deck, and we drove a squirrel. It was on a deck hook. He went up that hook, whatever, and forgive me, I'm not a squirrel sadist. I'm actually letting a lot more stay around right now because we're testing a great new system my son just finished inventing, and we got the prototype. But we can keep them out of a tray with hanging baffles, or that baffle I showed you here. You put that on a yard pole with something like this that he can't get up. Now, rules to remember on squirrels: 4 to 4.5 feet up. He can jump straight up, turn upside down, do a combination lock. But you get it over 4.5 feet, he can't do it. So I have a pole tall enough. This is 4.5 feet. Remember 10 foot. That rascal will launch over and over from a tree, a deck, or whatever, up to 10 foot. But you can put a pole out, Gene, with one of these on it. Or on my deck, there's a different kind of plastic baffle you can put over it. But we can squirrel-proof that rascal, okay? Another question.
Hey Mel, this is Molly.
Hi, Molly.
You're talking to us. This is so cool. I have 2 questions. First one
Sure.
is I have a lot of red male cardinals in our backyard. We have a privacy fence and we planted bamboo behind it. Does bamboo attract them? That's my first question. Why
Okay.
are there? I have so many of them.
I think the cover is what probably attracts them. And this year, several of us, I've been, now I'm a perfect bird world. I back up to conservation area, but the flocks get really big right now. Now that flock will disperse here pretty quick because the boys and the girls are and one of the rites of springs that I used to teach children is, the male will give a female a little bit of a sunflower kernel or something. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but watch for it. It will start happening. But when that starts happening, you'll see that crowd diverse. The bamboo is good as a cover. I don't think I necessarily would say it's a cardinal magnet, but sure that isn't hurting right now. It's the way it sounds. Smiley?
Well, our bird feeders, my kids put some bird feeders, but we haven't put any food in. So they think it's their bird feeders. And I'm like, well, I don't know what food would be in there.
Yeah, no, you got me on that one either. I have my best luck with native plants. I'm a big fan of that, and I want to remember to tell you my favorites on hummingbirds before we get off. What was your other question?
The other one is like when you have that thing to scare away crows, it's like this, it almost looks like a street lamp, and it has a silver ball that looks like a mirror on top. Have you seen those?
Yes.
Is that going to lose all my birds? I haven't put it out. I've been afraid that the dogs would break it, so I put it away. But now I'm like, we should put it in the yard. But will I lose my birds if I use it?
No, I don't think you will at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Most of the bird deterrents and even those devices like that, if you don't move them all the time, they soon recognize that rascal ain't gonna hurt me. So any of those things just that you might think would scare the birds and the crows. Oh my gosh. It'll work for a while, but even those, those guys are very smart. I do want to circle back to plants. One of the big secrets, people say, how do you get so many hummingbirds? Because if you look at the videos, my deck is just full. I got great feeders and I keep them clean. I got the right kind of nectar, keep them full. But the biggest thing I think is I have columbine that'll start blooming. I will go to Giving Gardens. I'll go to Strawberry Hill and I'll get fuchsia baskets, and I recommend you see locally owned businesses like them. There's other great nurseries in town, but please go to the locally owned guys. And then I have salvias, I got bee balms, coneflowers, trumpet vine, honeysuckle, Dropmore scarlet honeysuckle is one of my favorites. But those plants that are native plants to Missouri that bloom all the way through the season are the secret at keeping and having a huge crowd of hummingbirds. Other questions?
Mel, we 2 questions really, but one of them, some of us had a little fun with the great backyard bird count this year.
You bet.
One of the things I found a little difficult, we couldn't find any group activity for it. we were trying to do maybe a little competition, or how that week of the backyard food count, bird count was something that was kind of ideal for getting a group of people to look at birds. And so one of the things, if there's a suggestion, if one of the organizations around here could have a way that clubs could either compete with each other, or could have some sort of prize, or just have some sort of way to have fun when everybody's trying to do this across the world.
Hey, that's a very good statement, and I'm glad you guys participated in it. I know Gene mentioned he was going to. Throw a couple of things out there. The Columbia Audubon, if you haven't reached out to them, they are an incredible organization. And over the years, they have had some events. We actually, in the past, had a backyard caravan a couple of years where we went around to different backyards that we knew would be a good place to watch birds. But some of those things we put on the back burner with COVID, and I apologize for that. And I think, the same has been true for Audubon. We normally have guided bird walks, and we're going to try to get that going back again this year with Audubon's help for young and old. But that's a great idea, and I like that idea of having competition. So, hey, you give me an idea like that, and be careful. We're going to do our best to put it in place, and we'll be reaching out to you guys to participate next year, okay?
By the way, if you have a guided bird walks, it'd be fun to do one in the Kiwanis Park. And we could do it with you, or the other clubs. So we have this whole big park. It would be neat to have a bird walk there and see what's in it.
I'm going to write that one down, and I'll be looking for you to be there, okay?
And then the other question I had was, the pileated woodpecker is kind of a ghost for me. It suddenly appears. It's like a pterodactyl, it's so big. But I haven't found any way of kind of attracting them. They just come to the feeder every once in a while, and then it'll be months.
You and me are alike there, partner. I've had folks that tell me we're out of them right now. I think we got one left at the store. We make a woodpecker feeder with a giant long tail, and anything you can put right next to a tree trunk, everybody says is the best for a pileated. I got some that run the power lines behind me, probably 100 yards behind the house, maybe a little farther. And I haven't got a photo of him yet. Just so frustrating. BirdMan Mel can't get him to stay. So I think a lot depends on how many food sources they have in that given area. We happen to have a lot of dead timber behind us, and I think he's doing pretty good back there. But, the one thing they have told me that I haven't done enough myself is we're all used to putting feeders where we can see the birds. I'm going to try moving mine in the very back portions of the yard because he is shy. And we might be able to attract him more. So you might try that too. Seed cakes full of nuts is another thing that a lot of folks have told me they have luck with. But, I say all those things, and I have a good friend that's in the birding business down at the lake at Warrenton. And I go down there to do a little program for him in his garage. And there's a pileated hanging on one of those tiny little square suet cages. So, I throw out ideals, folks, but God creates a nature that is different every day, every minute. So all we can do is share ideals together that work. But, tomorrow's another show in the wild bird world out your window, and it did help me get through COVID, and I hope more and more of you enjoy them too. Other questions?
By the way, I got to say that I've got a 93-year-old mother-in-law that lives with us, and we've discovered that bird watching is one of the least expensive and most fascinating entertainments for someone who likes to be around a window. It's been fun.
Well, that's great,
especially in the winter when they want to get out of the cold.
You betcha. No, that's very, very true. And during the summer we'll have the same thing with the hummingbirds, the orioles, the goldfinches. Don't get scared about them. My wife gets mad at them because mine are gone right now. Well, they drift around and we got a giant field behind us, but all of a sudden they'll come back. So, we just all got to be a little bit more patient in the spring. Now, you do want to keep feeding because what happened is, when it was open before the snow hit, they were eating everything because of the cold temperatures. They're going to need more seed this spring, and there are seeds that don't sprout, so don't let that stop you. And trays, you can keep it from falling. But I don't want to run over my time. I'm looking up there. But, Gene, I'll leave it up to you whether we should take one more question. But otherwise, I'll see you at the store, I hope.
I think we're come to the end of our time, Mel. Thank you very much. And now I know, Mel, 3 dimensions of melatonin. I'm so excited about learning about that today. Mel, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Dale, I'll turn it back to you.